The billionaire caught his fiancée in the act of tormenting the maid, exposed only because the maid's little girl told him the truth. She never imagined anyone was watching. She was certain the cameras were off. The maid had no power to stop it. But a 3-year-old doesn't lie. She simply points her tiny finger and says what she saw. And what she saw was about to destroy a $1 billion engagement in front of the whole household. Welcome back to another emotional, true-to-life story. Tell us in the comments which country you're watching from. In a quiet, wealthy neighborhood outside Los Angeles, behind iron gates and marble columns, lived Ethan Cross, 34, a self-made billionaire, kind-hearted, but often blind to what happened in his own home. His fiancée, Isabella Grant, 29, was beautiful and charming in public, and something else entirely behind closed doors. Working quietly in the mansion was Elena Ramirez, 28, a single mother who cleaned floors to feed her daughter, little Lily, just 3 years old. Elena never complained. She kept her head down, believing if she worked hard enough and stayed silent enough, life would eventually be kind to her. But silence has a price. On one ordinary afternoon, a toddler's innocent words would expose a secret Isabella had hidden for months, a secret that would change 4 lives forever. Elena arrived every morning at 6, long before sunrise, pulling Lily along in a stroller since daycare didn't open until 8. Ethan had given her special permission. A child shouldn't be alone at 6 in the morning, he'd told her the first week. Ethan had built his fortune from nothing, a tech company that grew out of his college dorm room, and he never forgot what struggle felt like, a memory that made him quietly generous in ways his fiancée never understood. Isabella, by contrast, had grown up with everything handed to her: private schools, a trust fund, a face built for magazine covers. When she met Ethan at a charity gala 2 years earlier, she saw not just a successful man, but an empire, and she intended to rule it. To the public, to reporters, to Ethan's friends, Isabella was warm and graceful. She volunteered at children's hospitals when cameras were present. But the moment the doors closed and the staff arrived, a different woman emerged. "You missed a spot," Isabella said one morning, standing over Elena as she scrubbed the marble floor. "Do it again." "Yes, ma'am," Elena whispered, dipping her cloth back into the bucket. Lily sat nearby, clutching her stuffed rabbit, sensing the coldness in the room even if she didn't understand it. For months, small cruelties had been building. Extra chores, withheld meals, harsh words muttered only when Ethan wasn't around. Isabella was careful never to raise her voice in front of him, never to leave a visible mark. Elena needed the job desperately. Her husband had left 2 years earlier, and her sick mother back home needed money for medicine. She swallowed her pride daily, telling herself this was temporary, that Lily deserved better and this paycheck was the bridge to get there. But the cruelty was escalating. One afternoon, Elena overheard Isabella on the phone with a friend. "Ethan's so naive. He thinks I'm some saint. Once that ring's on my finger and the prenup's signed my way, I'll have access to everything. The maid? Please, she's furniture. Nobody listens to furniture." Elena's hands trembled as she stacked cans on the shelf. She thought about quitting nearly every night, but quitting meant no income, no insurance for Lily's asthma medicine, no roof within 30 days. So she stayed, telling herself the wedding was only 2 months away, and maybe things would settle after that. She was wrong. That evening, Ethan lifted Lily into his arms, calling her his little boss as always. Lily pointed to a bruise on her mother's wrist. "Mommy, ouch," she said simply. Ethan's smile faded. "Everything okay?" Elena forced a smile and pulled her sleeve down. "Just an accident, Mr. Cross. I bumped the cart." Ethan studied her a moment longer than necessary, some instinct telling him not to fully believe it. But he had a board meeting in 20 minutes, and he let it go. The seed, though, had been planted. What would you do in Elena's place? Trapped between survival and silence. Weeks passed, and Isabella grew bolder, believing Ethan was too busy and too in love to notice. She knocked over vases for Elena to clean up on her knees. She mocked her accent and once snapped, "This is America. Speak English in my house," when she heard Elena humming a Spanish lullaby to Lily. The staff, a chef, a gardener, and an older housekeeper named Margaret, who'd worked for Ethan's late mother, all noticed the shift but said nothing, knowing Isabella would have anyone who caused trouble fired. Margaret pulled Elena aside in the laundry room. "Honey, be careful. I've seen women like her before. Sweet in front of the boss, monsters the second he's gone. Document things if you can. You never know when you'll need proof." Elena took the advice to heart. Meanwhile, Ethan mentioned his unease to his business partner and friend, Nathan, over lunch. "Something feels off. Isabella's distant with the staff. Elena seems scared of her." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "Have you talked to her about it?" "She says I'm imagining things." Nathan studied him. "Love makes people blind, Ethan. Trust your gut." The words stayed with him. The following week, Elena accidentally chipped an antique vase worth nearly $4,000. Isabella's reaction was immediate and terrifying. She grabbed Elena's arm hard enough to leave marks. "Do you know what you're worth compared to this vase? Nothing. You're replaceable." She shoved Elena toward the kitchen. "Clean this and stay out of my sight. Don't even think about asking for your pay this week." Lily began to cry, and Isabella snapped, "Control your kid. This isn't a daycare." That night, Elena cried herself to sleep, thinking about leaving Los Angeles entirely. But leaving meant losing everything stable in Lily's life. She decided to endure just a little longer. She had no idea the worst incident was still ahead. What would you do in Ethan's place, sensing something wrong but unable to prove it? 2 weeks before the wedding, on a rare Saturday off, Ethan planned to review final wedding details with Isabella. Most staff had the weekend off except Elena, asked to deep clean the dining room before the wedding planner's walkthrough. Lily sat coloring nearby. Isabella, already irritated from a call with her mother, stormed in and found her outlet. "This silver isn't polished properly. Are you even trying?" "I'm sorry, ma'am. I'll redo it," Elena said quickly. But Isabella wasn't finished. She grabbed a pitcher of water meant for the planner's visit and poured it over Elena's head without warning. "Maybe this will wake you up," she shouted. Elena gasped and fell to her knees, drenched, but didn't fight back. Years of swallowing her dignity had taught her only to endure. Lily, though, did not stay silent. She jumped up, sobbing, and ran to her mother. "Mommy, Mommy!" At that exact moment, the front door opened. Ethan, who had stepped into the garden for a call, walked in and froze. His fiancée standing over a kneeling, soaked, humiliated Elena, an empty pitcher in her hand. "Isabella," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "What is going on here?" Isabella's face shifted instantly to practiced innocence. "Ethan, she ruined the silver. I just got frustrated. It was an accident." "Daddy," Lily interrupted, grabbing his pant leg, her face streaked with tears. "Lady mean to Mommy. Lady mean every day. Mommy say sorry, sorry, sorry. Lady hurt Mommy arm before too." Each broken sentence landed like a hammer blow. Ethan knelt to her level, hands trembling. "Sophia, Lily, sweetheart, can you tell Daddy what you mean?" "Lady hurts Mommy. Lady say bad words. Lady push Mommy. Lady say Mommy nothing, like chair." Ethan's face went pale, then red with fury. He stood and turned to Isabella. "Is this true? Has this been happening this whole time?" "Ethan, she's a baby. She doesn't understand." "Don't," he cut her off. "Don't tell me what a 3-year-old does or doesn't understand. Kids don't invent details like that unless they saw it happen." He rushed to Elena's side, wrapping a towel around her shoulders. "Elena, I am so sorry. I had no idea. Are you all right?" She could only nod, tears mixing with the water still dripping from her hair. What would you do in Ethan's place, discovering the woman you were about to marry had hidden this kind of cruelty for months? Isabella made one last desperate attempt. Ethan, please, let me explain. I've just been stressed with the wedding, and she's been clumsy. Stop, Ethan said firmly. Roll up your sleeve, Elena. She hesitated, then slowly revealed faded yellow-green bruises, older marks that had never healed before new ones formed. Ethan's jaw clenched. He'd seen those marks weeks ago and accepted her excuse. How long, Elena? How long has this been happening? Since almost the beginning, Mr. Cross. I needed this job. I had nowhere else to go, so I never said anything. Isabella tried once more. You're really going to believe a maid over me? The woman you're marrying? Ethan turned to her, colder than she'd ever seen him. I'm going to believe my daughter. And yes, I consider Lily family in this house. I'm going to believe the bruises on an innocent woman's arm. And I'm going to believe my own eyes, Isabella. I watched you pour water on a kneeling woman like she was an animal. The room fell into heavy silence, broken only by Lily's soft sniffles. What Ethan discovered next proved this wasn't the first time, and that Isabella's cruelty ran far deeper than anyone imagined. In the days that followed, Ethan requested the home's security footage, a system Isabella had always dismissed as unnecessary paranoia. Now it would become her undoing. He watched weeks of footage. Isabella screaming at Elena over nothing, withholding meals, denying bathroom breaks, mocking her accent in front of guests. He watched the moment 3 weeks earlier when Isabella had grabbed Elena's wrist so hard she winced, the same arm he'd questioned and been told was just an accident. The most damning clip was from 2 months prior, a video call Isabella had with her own mother, accidentally recorded while Elena dusted nearby. Once I'm Mrs. Cross, Isabella's voice played through the speakers, cold and calculating. I'll have access to accounts Ethan doesn't even let his lawyers touch. The prenup has loopholes my attorney found. Give it 18 months and I'll renegotiate everything. He's naive, Mom. Successful, but naive. He actually believes I love him for him. Ethan's hands gripped the desk as every loving gesture from the past 2 years replayed in his mind, now tainted by calculation. He thought of his late mother, who had raised him on humility and respect, and how disappointed she'd be to see how close he'd come to marrying someone who treated kindness as weakness. The next morning, Ethan called Elena into his office privately. First, I need to apologize, he said gently. I should have noticed sooner. I let my own trust in someone I thought I loved blind me to what was happening under my own roof. I am deeply sorry. You don't owe me an apology, Elena said, tears welling. No, Ethan said firmly. You were protecting your daughter's future. That's not weakness. That's the strongest kind of love a parent can show. The fault lies entirely with Isabella, and with me, for not paying closer attention to the people who keep this household running. He explained what he intended to do, not just end the engagement, but ensure Elena and Lily's well-being. He offered to cover Lily's medical expenses, raise Elena's salary significantly, and pay for her to pursue the education she'd abandoned when she became pregnant. You don't have to do all this, Elena said, overwhelmed. I want to, Ethan replied. Lily told me the truth when the adults around her chose silence. That kind of courage, even at 3, deserves to be rewarded, not punished. Word of the incident spread, despite Ethan's attempts to keep it private. Isabella, desperate to salvage her reputation, began calling mutual friends, claiming the bruises were fabricated, and Lily had been coached. But the footage didn't lie, and once Ethan's lawyer reviewed the prenup conversation, any remaining doubt about Isabella's character vanished. She was offered a quiet exit with a small settlement and mutual silence. She refused, threatening to go to the press with her own version first, a fatal miscalculation. Ethan's legal team released the footage to trusted journalists, not out of vengeance, he insisted, but responsibility. If she'd do this in my own home, he told his lawyer, imagine what she'd do with real power. People deserve to know before she finds her next target. Within 48 hours, the footage, combined with the recorded conversation about her true intentions, went viral, sparking a national conversation about wealth, entitlement, and the often invisible suffering of domestic workers. What would you do in Isabella's place, watching your carefully built image collapse in real time? The fallout was swift. Isabella's family distanced themselves publicly, despite her mother's voice clearly on the recording. Her high society friends quietly cut ties. The wedding was permanently canceled, and within a month, Isabella left Los Angeles for good, her reputation in ruins. Ethan, meanwhile, found himself met with public admiration rather than scandal, not because he sought it, but because his response reflected genuine accountability. "I had access to cameras, resources, power that most people don't have," he said in one widely shared interview. "And it still took a 3-year-old's honesty to open my eyes to suffering happening right in front of me. That should tell all of us something about how often we choose comfort over truth." Elena's life transformed. With Ethan's support, she enrolled in evening classes toward a degree in early childhood education. Her schedule kept flexible to accommodate her studies. Lily, finally free of the tense atmosphere that had clouded the mansion, blossomed back into the bubbly, curious toddler she was always meant to be. Ethan set aside time each week to read with her. "You're a very brave girl," he told her one afternoon. "Brave like superhero," Lily said, pleased. "Exactly like a superhero." Ethan smiled, ruffling her hair. "You told the truth when it was hard. That's the bravest thing anyone can do." A year later, Elena completed her degree and, with Ethan's glowing recommendation, secured a position as a teaching assistant at a nearby preschool, a job with stability and dignity. She still visited the estate occasionally, now as a friend rather than staff. Ethan took time before pursuing another relationship, focusing on rebuilding trust in his own judgment. When he eventually met someone new, a pediatric nurse named Claire, introduced through a children's charity event, he made sure to pay attention not just to how she treated him, but how she treated everyone around her, especially those with the least power to push back. As for Isabella, reports surfaced months later that she'd moved overseas, trying to start fresh away from the scandal that followed her name. Whether she ever truly reflected on her actions remained unknown, but the consequences of her choices were permanent. The story of Ethan, Elena, and Lily became, in its own quiet way, a reminder shared across dinner tables and social media that true character reveals itself not in how someone treats those who hold power over them, but in how they treat those who hold none. It reminded people that even the smallest among us often see and understand far more than adults give them credit for, and that honesty, unfiltered by fear, can accomplish what adult silence never could. Elena often thought back to that terrifying afternoon, the cold water, the humiliation, the fear, but also to what came after. Her daughter's small voice cutting through months of suffering and the unexpected compassion of a man who chose accountability over comfort. "The people with the least power," she told Lily years later, "often have the most important things to say. Never be afraid to speak the truth, even when your voice shakes." The moral is simple but powerful. Kindness and cruelty cannot hide forever, no matter how much status or wealth attempts to shield them. Truth, especially the kind spoken through innocent eyes, always finds a way through even the strongest walls of denial. And sometimes the bravest voice in the room belongs to the smallest person standing in it. If this story touched your heart today, please like this video, subscribe for more emotional and inspiring true-to-life stories, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Tell us in the comments what part moved you most: Lily's courage, Elena's strength, or Ethan's transformation? We'll see you in the next story.